Welcome back to another long-awaited episode of the Screen Addicts podcast. I'm Nick. With me, as always, is Anthony the Rook and TJ, who is mildly hammered at this point. This podcast brought to you by Belly Up Sports and SoCo Media. We appreciate you guys and your support. Thank you very much. This week we'll be going over 1977 classic hockey movie Slapshot, starring Paul Newman and Michael Onkine. This is a classic minor league hockey movie about the Charlestown Chiefs. Hard to do blue collar team in a blue collar town, and how they try to stay relevant in the rough world of minor league hockey. So TJ, tell me, you're a big hockey guy. What does this movie mean to you as a hockey guy?
Slapshot is the quintessential hockey comedy movie. It was the first one done in that style of bringing a sports movie, a hockey movie, into the movie world with comedy, and pretty much a basis of it's based on a sport, yet it's meant to be funny. Big time actor Paul Newman in there. And it is like, if you talk about sports movies and you're a hockey fan, if you don't know about Slapshot, you're not a hockey fan. The movie's amazing. It's hilarious. It holds up. And it honestly, it encapsulates hockey, the hockey style, the type of person that likes hockey, loves hockey, plays hockey. It has all the elements that you want to see. It's a comedy. It's got plenty of action. It portrayed the game exactly how it was in the 70s. And I mean, it's an amazing movie.
It's probably one of the first movies that used actual players in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be.
They actually used, just so before, Bruce Boudreau, the head coach of NHL's Minnesota Wild at one point. He appeared in the film wearing number 7, part of the Hyannisport Presidents, which is pretty cool. So they actually use a lot of minor league hockey hockey players from the area. I think they're part of the AHL, right? In the movie. And then they also have, the funny thing about the Hanson Brothers is that there actually were 3 Hanson Brothers. Steve and Jeff Carlson play two of the Hanson Brothers, and there's a Dave Hanson. There actually was a third Carlson brother. They all were minor leaguers together, and they were all going to be together as the Hanson Brothers. And then it turned out, I think the oldest one actually got moved up to the NHL, couldn't be in the movie anymore. And that's when they got Dave Hanson to come in, and they named them the Hanson Brothers. And the Hanson Brothers are obviously a key point of this movie. I mean, they're just so funny.
I think they're the part that did the long-lasting part.
Yes, because they're still
that's what anything you remember about this movie, that's what they're centered around. It's all the antics associated with the Hanson Brothers. They're the catalyst for the movie. I mean, there is no movie without them.
They're the Goons.
Should we take a shot? We should take a shot. Can we make out? I mean, should we take a shot? I will drink to that, sir. But they're the Goons. They're the antic guys. They're the ones who catalyst the, as TJ said, catalyst. I'm almost like Kansas City Chiefs. They take the Chiefs from being this no-name team in the AHL, about to be pretty much disbanded because the mill's shutting down in the town. And then everyone's like, all right, this team could play. They get into the championship. I mean, it is a fun movie from beginning to end.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty about the plot of the movie.
Yeah,
the Charlestown Chiefs, which I just want to point out, because of the teams that they play, I always thought were in Boston. It's a hockey movie, right? They're called Charlestown. That is a spot in Boston. They play Hyannisport, which is in Cape Cod. Yeah. I assumed that it was in Boston, only to find out that it's Charlestown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it is.
Put 2 and 2 together.
Steeltown.
The mill's going to lay off their 10,000 employees, and that threatens the local hockey team because they're imagining that with the laying off of all these workers, they're going to leave the town to find work elsewhere, which will directly impact the attendance at their hockey games.
Right. And I believe that the owner of the team is just looking to get rid of them because they didn't want to carry the weight of pretty much them as an expense.
Right. So Reggie Dunlop, who is the player coach played by Paul Newman.
I could say, sorry to interrupt here, Reggie Dunlop. What Paul Newman does such an incredible job of bringing this character to life. He is so awesome, such a badass, such like a playboy,
such a badass,
such a playboy. And listen, I love my women, but I don't know who was sexiest movie, Paul Newman or Lindsay Krause playing Lily Braden at the end there. I mean, this is those blue eyes, baby. Those blue eyes get you.
This isn't Night Nurses from Jersey.
Every time. The best is actually there's nudity in this movie, so that was
fun. But Reggie Dunlop, in an effort to keep his team relevant, bringing in the big bucks, all right? And how do we do that, boys, right? Fork check, back check, paycheck. We learned that from Aves, all right? And I'm sorry for those of you listening. We didn't actually learn it from Sean Avery. It's just that's what he said to me in my birthday message. He said, that's what he said. But point being, he goes and he acquires the legendary Hanson Brothers, which, Rook, give us a little background on those. I mean, you already kind of told us that the Hanson Brothers, there were 3 Hanson Brothers. In fact, in real life, 2 of them were actually brothers. One of them actually has cancer right now, which is sad to hear. I can't recall which one is currently suffering from cancer. He had a bit of a GoFundMe going, which Steve Alakette from the Rangers actually donated and dressed as one of the Hansons and donated to the GoFundMe for that individual. It was one of the Carlsons. I just can't remember which one. I want to say it was Steve Carlson is actually sick right now with cancer. And if it is Steve, I just want to wish him a happy and healthy recovery. But anyhow, and the Hansons are goons. And for those of you who never watched hockey before, a goon is the guy who shows up to put the paws on somebody. He's just there to fight. He's there to do the dirty play. He's there to be an enforcer and to fight people. That's what he doesn't actually have hockey talent. He's just there to disrupt the game, essentially, and discourage anybody from trying to play hockey, actual hockey. Think of a boxer.
Tom Wilson.
Tom Wilson can actually score. So
he's a goon.
He is. He's a goon who could score, but most traditionally, a goon can't score. He's just there to play the game. But that's what they were brought in, and Reggie Dunlop decides we're going to be a spectacle on ice, and that's how we're going to draw a crowd. Because as long as we can draw a crowd, we're relevant, and we make money, and our owner wants to keep us.
Well, essentially, they decided to be the Broad Street Bullies. They decided to take a page out of the Philadelphia Flyers and say, if we're not going to score and win and no one's coming to see us, then we're going to beat the shit out of people and then win that way because they don't want to get in the corners. They don't want to even play against us. And we're just going to beat them down into submission and then score a couple goals and take the win, but pump the crowd in the process and get people to come to the game.
I also love that scene when Reggie goes to pick them up from the train station. And then he puts them in the hotel and he goes to the hotel room and they're just sitting there playing the car. They're automatically those old school gun ones. Yeah, and they just electric. So you know what's funny about that scene is that scene was actually ad-lib. That was actually the idea of the Carlson brothers, but the actors who play the Hanson brothers, that was their idea to do that. So that actually wasn't expected to be in the film. And they said they came into the room and the 3 of them were playing with the little
slot cars.
Slot cars. And they're like, we'll keep it in the film. Like, let's just keep it. This is funny. And it is funny. You see them, they're just so immature, but they're also these guys who are the enforcers and like their mentality off the ice. It's just like, it's just childish. It's great.
So just to reiterate what I said, it is Steve Carlson was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic squamous cell carcinoma. And we do wish Steve a very healthy recovery, and hopefully he can beat it. Cancer fucking sucks. And
unbelievable.
Of all the things in the world that we can get rid of, I think cancer would be up top, probably number 1. I think we've all been affected by somebody one way or another in our friends or family having cancer. I know my grandfather died of cancer. My friend Mike's mom died of cancer, and it's a disgusting thing, and fuck cancer.
Yeah, my grandmother, my aunt. Yeah, fuck cancer.
We're wishing Steve Carlson a healthy recovery. So essentially, without giving out too much of the movie, they go on this tear where they're winning games, but they're also beating the shit out of everybody in the league. Again, Broad Street Bullies type of play. And spoiler alert, Reggie Dunlop goes to the owner at the end, like, hey, you're the owner. We're making money now. And the owner comes back and goes, I don't really give a fuck. That's essentially what it comes down to. She looks at him like, yeah, I'm the owner. I don't give a fuck if you win. I don't give a fuck if you draw a crowd. I just don't care about hockey.
Right.
Hey, you're not making that much money that I need you.
So another point,
you find out at that point, I believe that Reggie made up a whole lie.
Yeah, I was just going to get to that. He made up the whole lie about that the team was going to be bought by was like some sort of condominium or someone in Florida. And he went to so Dickie Dunn was the reporter he went to. He told them, why would I lie? Like, what would I have to gain from lying about this? And then eventually to keep the players to play the rest of the season, he basically told them they're going to be bought by this team out in Florida, like, to keep them motivated to keep going. So the funny thing about this Dickie Dunn thing is that, so if there's a false rumor or just a reporter who writes things that are untrue, players in the NHL still refer to them as Dickie Dunns until this day. I mean, we're 2020. This movie was 1977. We're nearly 50 years from this movie being made.
What
did I say?
You said it's 2020.
Oh, 2021. It's
close enough.
It's almost 2022.
We lost. Yeah, it's almost 2022. I don't know why I said 2020, but anyway, which is funny because these NHL players still refer to this movie as like one of their top notches. Minor leaguers, NHL, professional players, they all just love this movie. They refer to it all the time. They get so much joy from it. It's like if you're an NHL player and you never watch Slapshot, are you truly an NHL player?
Are you really in the league? So
are you in the league?
I honestly had never seen the movie before. I'm not a big fan of old movies. I just don't like the quality of film, if that makes sense. In my older age, I've actually finally started watching older classics. Like, for instance, I watched Citizen King. I watched Casablanca, things like that. And like I watched The Godfather in high school because my teacher made me. Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Great movie. We read the script in class as part of my English class. But I watched the movie, and I got to say, the jokes don't land in 2021 like they did in 1977, because in 2021, we have far more risque and dirty things being done. But for 1977, that movie is at the pinnacle of what was acceptable.
See, I think I got to disagree with you. I got to disagree with you because a lot of that movie would be faux pas at this point. I mean, when he starts fucking with
to the point where it's not funny.
Right, like when he's fucking with the goalie of the opposing team, telling him his wife's a carpet muncher, and he fucking flips out and starts a huge brawl with the goalie. I mean, like telling him that she's a dyke, like skates up to him like, your wife's a dyke.
But that to me that just wasn't funny. I was just kind of sitting there like, all right, that's
because in our to the effect of generation. Right, generationally, that is
dyke every day.
Right, but that's what I mean. Generationally, that was a major insult in 1977 compared to now. It's like, well, maybe she is, whatever.
The jokes don't really land today because if somebody said your wife's a lesbian, they'd be like, okay. And whereas in 1977, it's a big deal. Like,
also, though, too, like when I did watch that scene, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. This you can't really watch this in 2021.
I didn't really think that way. What I will say is that movie has had such an amazingly phenomenal impact on the sport of hockey since it came out. And I'll give you a small example based on that documentary I saw yesterday. It's on Netflix. It's called Crime and Punishment, about the what do they call it? The Danbury Trashers. Their whole existence was based on, we're going to create a team like the Hanson Brothers.
Yeah.
To keep our team relevant. And that's what they just started fights randomly, and they got amazing attendance, amazing following. They were the bad boys of hockey for the AHL. completely illegal. Everything that they were doing was fucking illegal.
And then with the added lockout, they pick up Mike Rupp, and now they have Mike Rupp scoring goals and beating the shit out of people on top of it.
It was entertaining, and that was the point. I mean, that's the point of all sports, isn't it? And I think that was, I mean, again, Steve Valiquette for Halloween dressed up like one of the Hanson brothers, which he's probably bigger than all of them, by the way. Steve Valiquette, yeah, I always forget that Steve Valiquette is like 6'8".
Yep,
and he's a
big guy.
How he was ever not the greatest goalie ever, I'll never understand. The man is just a math human being. He could have laid down in front of the net and nobody would have ever scored.
So I wanted to say, apart from the nudity in it, as I always point out the sexual nature of movies, but I don't have to go too far in this one for a stretch of it. Like, Night Nurses when we did Little Big League. But so this nudity part, Reggie Dunlop sleeps with the goalie's wife, and she reveals to him that she's lesbian. The entire time she's doing this, scene, she's topless. The actress who plays that topless, or the wife of the goalie, is actually the mother from Christmas Story, who obviously we're around the holidays right now. We're all going to watch Christmas Story. Actually, it's different for me now because I now see what her breast looks like. So I don't know how I'm going to watch this movie Christmas Day.
But I think Slapshot has had such an amazing impact on hockey. Every hockey player knows Slapshot. Again, I love hockey. The only reason it's taking me this long to watch it is because I'm a film snob, and I couldn't appreciate old film until I hit 30, honestly. And it just wasn't something I like to watch because the audio was always bad and the video was always grainy, and I was always kind of sitting there going like even as a kid, like I've seen Rocky, but I was never really into Rocky until I became an adult. And then I was like, oh, fuck, this movie's amazing. Basically, it took them having to remake the same movie 8,000 times for me to be like, I got to watch some of these old movies that they haven't remade yet. Because we don't get movies anymore.
Before we wrap things up and get into it, I have some fun facts about it. But
yeah, let's hear them.
Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about that last scene where there's just the other team comes out. They're expecting just a soft team, it's a championship game. They'll win the championship. And they're like, goon after goon after goon comes out of the lineup. They're announcing them, and there's just a huge brawl going on. Lily Braden shows up in the middle of this brawl, and she's just done up to the nines. She looks incredible. And her husband, who's Ned Braden,
and who refuses to be a part of the program,
refuses to be part of the fighting because he never liked the fighting throughout the entire
the hockey player. He's not a goon.
Yeah, he's a hockey player, not a goon. He's a good hockey player too. And he decides, well, all right, then I'm just going to get naked. And he does this whole strip scene, and everyone's like, what the hell is going on? And that eventually wins them the championship. Spoiler alert. But that's just a fun scene where everyone's bleeding, everyone's bruised. Then they have the championship parade afterwards. It is a fun ending, and it's a fun movie. It's a funny movie. I know you said some of the jokes don't land, but I still.
What do you think, you guys? What are your favorite scenes in that movie? Like, I know I have a couple. I think.
Go ahead.
The fucking national anthem scene. They're sitting there. The national anthem's playing. The referee goes to turn to one of the Hansons and start reading him the riot act, and the fucking Hanson looks at him and goes, "They're playing the fucking anthem."
No, he says, I'm trying to listen to the fucking song.
There it is. And the referee's like,
it turns around
and just salutes the flag. That is my favorite scene in the whole movie. It's so iconic. I think I've seen that meme or GIF more times in the last 3 years because of the NFL and their bullshit than I've seen in my life. And my response to that was always like, well, that's a fictional fucking story and it doesn't really apply. Like, it didn't really happen. I think so. I saw somebody go, this is how we handle things in hockey. We stand for the national anthem. I'm like, A, 90% of hockey is not American. B, that's a fictional fucking story. Like,
listen,
love that scene.
Dude, the scenes are great. I mean, the scene where he starts the Hanson line and they go out and they just start destroying people in the dirtiest hits possible, just the cheapest shots and the nastiest. It's a 2 minutes of gratuitous violence in a hockey style, which is great. And then commentary from the bench where the dude's looking on and he goes, "These guys are a fucking disgrace." Like, just absolutely amazing. He gets that dude, Dave, who renames himself Killer, to buy in and just gets the absolute shit beat out of him. And he goes, "Yeah, look at Dave. Yeah, Dave took one, blah, blah, blah." And the other guy looks at all of them and goes, "Dave's a fucking mess." And he's getting his face worked on because he's bleeding all over the place. Yeah. And then as they're gearing up for the last game, he's trying to come out with a cape on like fucking Dracula, like it's a Broadway show. I always loved that. I thought that was absolutely epic.
I like the opener.
I was just gonna say that was my favorite scene.
They're asking the goalie about all the plays, and he's like, "Oh yeah, a hook is," and then he's got the very hardcore
Canadian
accent.
Dude,
this is the sticky and the stick. This is the high stick.
Like
dude, that scene is so great because he's just so fucking blasé about it. He's like, no, you don't do that. So then if you do that, then you go into the penalty box and you get to rest for 2 minutes and you feel shame. And then they let you free.
Asked a French-Canadian hockey player to explain the rules of hockey.
Yeah.
No script.
Incredible.
Yes. Actually, I think it might have been one no script. It looked like it was. But I thought that scene too because it was just so funny where it's like he's like so nonchalant. I think that was good. That was good take. Like at the end of it, he's like in pain, grabbing his shin. And I also like the scene immediately after that when they first go to the stadium and then the entire crowd is just heckling them, screaming at them. "Braden, you suck. Dunlop, you suck." And just everyone's going into them. It's just such a funny. There's so many scenes and like
Dude,
there's so many great one-liners. I can't pick one. If I'm gonna pick one, I'm probably gonna pick opening scene, that interview, and then followed by the crowd heckling them. That's probably it just brings you right into what you're about to expect for the next hour and 45 minutes.
Also, like didn't they show?
I was gonna say, what about the fact that like when that scene where they, the Hansons debut on the ice, and one of them rips a slap shot and nails the fucking organ player in the head, and he just collapses onto the organ. Like that's one of the greatest fucking slapstick comedy injury scenes in my mind. And then on top of it, if you ever gone to an NHL game, most NHL teams, like between the second and third period, the pump up, they always use that Paul Newman monologue pump up to get his team riled up every time.
Yeah.
It's one of the first like pump up, get your team going thing that is just constantly repeated and replayed a million times because like, yeah, here we go. Let's do it.
It's like the Bluto Animal House.
Yes.
Did we give up when the Germans bomb Pearl Harbor? We're gonna stop him? No, he's on a roll. Like, like it's just
it's like Al Pacino on Any Given Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah.
They play that at Yankee games. You have to claw. You have to fight for every inch.
Yes, that's a good one too. So just some of the fun facts before we wrap up here. So this has actually made me laugh because we talked about this already with the language and the use of the word dyke and the carpet muncher and every other bad word you could possibly think of. But the swearing in the film by 1977 standards were considered so foul that advertisements contained an additional warning under the R rating saying certain language may be too strong for children, which makes me laugh because it's only an R-rated movie, right? Like, you wouldn't be bringing your kids to R-rated movie, but in the 70s, no one gave a shit. I feel like,
So ratings probably just at the time, if I remember right, there was only X and NC-17.
Like the worst ones, right?
Yeah. But like even R and like G and all that stuff, that really wasn't very prominent until the 80s.
Right.
When was the last time you saw a G-rated movie?
Disney movies. That's the only ones that are G.
Right?
Yeah. And it also makes me laugh because like they're saying some of the language like in the 70s is like it's considered foul. We're like nowadays, like we can't like if there's a scene of Reggie Dunlop calling someone a dyke, that's not on even allowed. Like you would not that scene wouldn't be in a movie theater right now. in 2021.
It would just make him an evil human being, and he would be a piece of shit.
Yeah,
but you're just not going to be a popular character.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would agree with that. It would make the lovable fact of Reggie Dunlop, who I think is a likable character.
Yeah, not cancelable character.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, by today's standards, if you say the F word twice, it's an R-rated movie immediately.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So the other thing is, too, is interesting is actually the Charleston Chiefs are based on the Johnstown Jets, which is an AHL team. And that's why Bruce Boudreau was actually in the movie, because he was playing for the Jets at the time. And the funny thing is Reggie Dunlap's apartment is actually Bruce Boudreau's apartment.
Wow.
While they have that scene, the whole, the sex scene, the nudity and everything like that, it happens there.
You keep bringing it up.
Bring what up?
The nudity.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, the goons that come out at the end of the movie, we have Tim Dr. Hook McCracken. It sounds familiar, right? You guys remember was it Dr. Hook? So when he comes out, I looked at him and I was like, man, this guy looks like Wolverine, Marvel. And like me as a comic book fan, cartoon fan of Marvel stuff. So the funny thing is, he actually served as the original model for the face of Wolverine in Marvel Comics.
Really?
I was like, this is incredible, because he looks just like him. He comes out, he has the long sideburns, the sticked up hair, and this is Wolverine. Like, that's Wolverine. And it really is. It's not even just me saying it, but it truly was the face of Wolverine, which is pretty cool. Couple of cool things just about Paul Newman, basically. I mean, not only was he cool playing Reggie Dunlop, but Paul Newman just as a life. I mean, he's an incredible actor. He's in some great movies. He's won an Oscar. He's towards the end of his life, he was in Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks. I didn't know this about Paul Newman. He still raced cars.
Yeah.
Until he was like 88. He died at 88, I think 88 or 89. Like, he won a race at 87, a year before he died. He has the Guinness record for being the oldest person to win a automobile race, which is just incredible. And then he obviously played Doc Hudson in Cars, which is funny because Cars is obviously a racing movie. He loves racing. Like, it was one of his passions was always racing. And then we also have the passion that he has of salad dressing, of Newman's Own. And Newman's Own, I actually realized that I thought that they had just put his face on a bottle. Newman's Own actually is invented by Mr. Paul Newman himself. Did you guys know this?
Yeah, man.
You
go to Costco. How can you not get the coffee K-Cups, Newman's Own?
You know what I feel like right now?
What?
I want to say, what show is it? Oh, it's Scrubs. It's Scrubs, where he's just like, oh, I mixed iced tea with lemonade and had myself an Arnold Palmer. And he goes, isn't it weird? Is there anybody who's more famous off of doing nothing than Arnold Palmer?
He's a drink mogul.
Cox goes, Arnold Palmer is a golfer. And he goes, I'm sure he's got tons of hobbies, Perry. He's a drink mogul.
Yes.
That's what you just did with Paul Newman.
Well, no, I knew Paul Newman's an actor, and he's famous for being an actor, but I didn't realize, I always thought
you reversed Paul Newman, okay? You reversed it, where he makes salad dressing, and you're just like, well, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he has plenty of things he publicizes. He's an actor. No, he made that.
No, I didn't realize that he invented. So apparently the story is that in 1980.
Arnold Palmer invented the drink after he'd already been a popular golfer.
Just letting you know, my phone's literally about to die right now. So if I cut off, just continue.
Yeah, I think we're almost done anyway. So anyway, the funny thing is, in 1980, Paul Newman and a friend of his make this dressing. They go to a party. They put the dressing in the salad. Everyone loves it.
What was the original dressing?
It was like the olive oil and like whatever it was. I don't know the ingredients of it.
Fucking balsamic vinegar? Fuck that shit.
I don't know what it was, but it was whatever the ingredients were. They basically say, this is incredible. You should bottle it and make it into a salad dressing company. So Paul Newman, the man that he is, he doesn't make it for money. He takes all the proceeds that he sells from Newman's Own salad, and even till this day, Newman's Own dressing, even to this day, it's a not-for-profit company. So all the money they make goes to other nonprofit organizations. There it is, Newman's own, and they actually help other people from it. It's not just, I think we lost TJ. It's not just a salad to make money. It goes to charity. All the profit goes away to some sort of charity. So I thought that was just an incredible story about, making a salad dressing for one party and then becoming this entire, charity organization.
And salad mogul.
Becoming a salad mogul. I'm sure he acts on the side, whatever.
But I think we definitely a good movie. If you're a hockey fan, especially, you kind of have to know what the times were like to really, really appreciate the language and the jokes for them to hit. It's one of those things where it's like, if you weren't there, you don't get it. We lost TJ. I'm gonna give the movie what do we do usually? 5 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. It's been a while.
I think we do 5.
We do 5 stars. I'm gonna give it 4. I take it back. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because I didn't love it. But the cultural impact that it's had on Americana is undeniable. And because of that, you gotta give it a high rating.
Yeah, I'm gonna go high too. It's like you said, the cultural impact, the fact that NHL players still quote it, they call it the Bible, basically.
It still inspires people.
It does. And like TJ said, they put it on Jumbotron, that speech from Paul Newman, to get crowd fired up. And you know what? I would be a disgrace to my cousin if I didn't give this a high rating. This is my cousin's all-time favorite movie. I watched this as a kid.
Which cousin?
Mike. I watched this as a kid. I was like 8 years old, didn't get half of the jokes, but I watched it anyway because this is his favorite movie. So I'm gonna give it. I'm
from a Christmas Story's titties at 8 years old.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm gonna give it a 4.8.
Wow,
4.8, high up there.
No, we can go that far. I don't think we can show an image of a 0.8 star.
Whatever, we'll just do 1 point. We'll do 4.8. But I'm gonna almost give it the whole scale of it, of the full 5, because it's just it's such a funny movie. It's like you said, the cultural impact. Watch it. It's great for a replay. Just everything. The Hanson Brothers. It's just fun. The nudity and everything else is just it's a good time.
We'll get TJ's rating at a later.
Yeah, we'll put it up. We'll post
that right there. And that covers our review of the movie Slapshot, 1977 American classic about hockey, starring Paul Newman and Michael Onkeen.
It's been fun though.
But from all of us at the Screen Addicts podcast, we appreciate you. All of the guys at Sokoa Media and Belly Up podcast, we appreciate you. This has been a Belly Up and a Sokoa Media and a Cockshot production. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. Have a great night.